Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to our fourth webinar from the webinar series on the nature restoration law, and particularly the urban part of the law, focusing on Article 8. I'm Leon Capetas from Resilient Cities Network, and I'm an external expert for the European Urban Initiative. I will be the moderator for today's webinar. I think while we're waiting for more people to join, it'd be good to introduce the house rules. We have switched off your microphones, but you can always use the chat for questions. So we encourage you to ask your questions to our speaker. And then when we're done with the presentation, we'll have a more interactive conversation. This session is being recorded, so this will also let you access the resources later or share them with colleagues. Now I would like to pass this on to my colleague Heather Brooks, who will introduce the webinar series in broader terms, what we've done so far and where this is going. Heather?
Thanks, Leon. Hi, good morning, everyone. It's a sunny day in Brussels, so I hope it's sunny where you are as well. Indeed, this is the fourth in our Nature Restoration Law webinar series. So this series is aiming to support cities with the implementation of the Nature Restoration Law, particularly the Urban Nature Restoration Ecosystem Article, so that Article 8. This is, I'm sure you know by now, this is for no net loss of urban green space or tree canopy cover in urban ecosystem areas by 2030. So we've been running this webinar series from March until June, covering a range of different topics. Because of this new piece of legislation, cities are needing to rethink urban planning. So in our first webinar, we looked at baselines and data, but we know cities are also rethinking spatial plans, urban plans, which departments need to be involved in this. They're thinking about building regulations, so how to green new developments, but how can you also work with existing buildings and ensure they're as green as possible, retrofitting with green and blue roofs, for example. How can cities work with citizens, with business? We know, for example, in Brussels that 55% of the green space is privately owned. So it's really crucial then that cities do work with citizens for private gardens, for example. And we know that as part of this regulation, the Nature Restoration Law, that member states will be developing a national restoration plan. So to include all of the measures for how they're going to achieve the different articles, including this one on urban nature restoration. So how can cities get involved? So Leon, if we move to the next slide, then for those of you that have missed a couple of our webinars so far, we will share the link in the chat box in a second. But just as a brief overview, as I said, we looked in the first webinar at baselines. So what is the baseline for your urban green space? What is the baseline year for your tree canopy cover? And what are the definitions? What is the definition of urban ecosystem area, for example? There we were joined by the Commission, the Joint Research Centre, and we talked a bit about how to combine also data sets. So looking at the EU satellite data and local level data, how can you potentially combine this? This is an ongoing discussion, I should say. So we'll hope to hear some more from the Commission about this soon. In our second webinar, we zoomed in on those urban nature plans. So there is already some guidance out there as to how to develop an urban nature plan, how to co-design this with citizens. So we looked at that. We also looked at some different examples of how cities are already working with urban green infrastructure plans, nature plans, strategies. And then in our last webinar, we looked at this question around building regulations and spatial plans. So we looked at kind of different policies for new and existing developments. We had a speaker from Bristol, Sarah, who presented on the biodiversity net gain. So this is a UK policy. She looked at how it was being implemented in Bristol. And this is to achieve biodiversity gain of 10% for all new developments across the UK. So she shared also a bit about the process for understanding the biodiversity baseline of that site, which is 2021, and calculating the planning proposal, and then what kind of requirements are needed there. So whether they can cut down a particular tree or not, and how much that would cost them to do so. We also heard from Paris on their bioclimatic plan. So this is their urban master plan. It sets out all of those regulations for land use and developments. Leah shared with us around the fact that on all plots of land larger than 150 meters squared, up to 65% of open space is needed in projects with no possibility for derogation. So that's a quite ambitious requirement that they have. She also shared on this green building index that they've just started to implement, and this is for all new constructions, major renovations, extensions as well, and building elevations. But she shared kind of some of the technical details of this, which essentially the index then is a numerical value. So it's a number that comes out based on specific criteria. This is built around kind of the local context, the project type, and structural possibilities. And then finally, we heard from the University of Naples around a discussion of the benefits and drawbacks of using soft and hard policies for nature restoration. So we heard a bit about how hard regulations, the setting of minimum standards, this can mobilize funding, and soft regulations can foster cross-collaboration and provide more flexibility. We then also looked into a bit of some of the emerging tools for hard and soft regulations, specifically in relation to the nature restoration regulation. So we're looking into these urban nature plans again, kind of highlighting some of these points around master plans. That is kind of a hard, can be a hard regulation or policy. And then we looked into this knowledge sharing and co-design methods. So some of these softer tools of implementing the nature restoration regulation. If you've missed any of those, as I say, we'll share the link so you can catch up with the presentations, but also the recordings. But enough about the former webinars. We'll move on to today's. So I'll hand back over to Leon to introduce today's webinar, and then we'll hear from Albert.
Yeah, great, Heather. Thanks for the background. So today's webinar, it's on green regulations on municipally owned and managed land. We have an exciting example from the Area Metropolitana Barcelona. Our speaker is Albert Gasul, who's the Director of Public Space and Services. Of course, cities have been working on urban renaturing, urban greening, before the nature restoration regulation. So this, based on the discussions we've had with Albert, is let's say some natural continuation of the work they've been doing already. I'd like to pass it on to you now, Albert, for your presentation. Please feel free to take control of the slides. Looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much, Leon. It's a pleasure for me to be here, and thanks for inviting me and giving me the opportunity of speaking and showing the work we're doing in the metropolitan area of Barcelona. I'm going to talk about what the work we are doing, but first of all, I would like to. I think I have some problems with the slides. I cannot go ahead. Let's see. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, sorry. Well, there are some data that sorry, it's not working.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not loading fully.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay.
Probably there is an animation.
It's okay. Yeah, that's right. I have it. Sorry. Sorry about that. Okay. There are some data that we have to take in account because they are really fraying. We have there is a study from the Institute for Global Health in Europe that took 1,000 cities in Europe and got this data. This 125,000 premature deaths could be because of PM2.5 pollution. 80,000 because NEO2, 43,000 because of lack of green spaces, and 3,600 because of noise related to ischemic heat disease. But another study from the same institute says that from 2023 says that we could avoid 47,000 deaths every year because of high temperatures in summer. This makes more than 300,000 premature deaths in Europe every year caused by these things, okay? We can sum to this biodiversity. The figures are equally alarming. Since 2050, 36 species have gone extinct. A study published in the Animal Conservation reports that more than 500 animal species have not been observed during the last 50 years. And the Living Planet report by the Worldwide Fund of Nature estimates that vertebrate populations have declined about 68% in the last half century. So really, this is the panorama we have. Well, so what's doing Europe to afford all this? Well, Heather, or you've been in the Wetlands, you already know that we have the European Green Deal that aims to create a cleaner, healthier, and climate-neutral Europe by transforming the way we produce and consume. After that, we had the biodiversity strategy in 2030 that aims to put Europe biodiversity on the path to recover by 2030 for the benefit of people, climate, and the planet. And in the end, what we are talking about, this natural restoration law, that aims to put measures in place to restore at least 20% of the US lands and seas areas by 2030, and all ecosystems in needed restoration for by 2050. Okay, as you already know, members have to do their homework, and by September 26, I think, we have to have our drafts made, and they have to be approved, and with a final version in September 27, and then from June 32 we'll restudy all this. Okay. What are we? Well, and in this we have this Article 8 that's talking about urban greenery. So this is the thing: not less loss of urban green areas and urban tree canopy by December 2030, and then from 31 onwards, an increase trend is necessary to satisfy levels. Okay, so that's the thing, and that's what we are working on. This is our territory. The metropolitan area of Barcelona is a territory of about 632 square kilometers that has 36 municipalities around the city of Barcelona, and with a population of 3.3 million, that is almost the half of the population of Catalonia. This is the territory, but it's also an administration that has some powers on this territory, like transports, waste management, and urban planning. And inside this organization, there is a department called Public Space, that is the one I manage. And this is the work we're doing is what I'm going to explain. But well, let's go back to the territory. Our territory is this you see in this picture. It's a territory that has 52% of open spaces. That's interesting and important. And 900 kilometers of contact between these open spaces and the urban fabric. And as you will see later, this is really an opportunity for the city to bring greenery inside it, okay? But the thing is that we have good news is that we could increase this 52% nearly to 71% if we take advantage of the opportunities offered by the urban fabric and the building rooftops. Well, what's the AMB doing, the Metropolitan Area of Barcelona doing? It's doing a master plan that is the instrument that will organize the metropolitan territory in the integrated manner in the coming decades. And as you can see, it's based 5 principles. The first one is preserve ecological functions and ecosystem services. This means organize the territory through green infrastructure and things like that. And apart from that, now, since January, we're working on the Metropolitan Strategy on Green Infrastructure, Connectivity and Ecology Restoration to give an answer to this law we're talking about. Well, but in the meantime, what we're doing, what have we done till now? In 2019, we began to work in a sustainability protocol that we put in practice in 2020. The sustainability protocol for the AMB and IMSOL, AMB is us and IMSOL is the metropolitan company that makes public housing. Okay, this protocol was created out of sense of professional and institutional responsibility in the face of the climate crisis. And it has become the framework that guides our response to it, okay? It is a guide that promotes green public procurement and provides technical teams with a practical tool for aligning projects with the sustainable development goals of the 2030 agenda. And it is a cross-cutting multidisciplinary tool that supports both climate change mitigation and adaptation and helps guide decisions through all phases of the project, from the earliest planning stage to implementation. This protocol is organized in 6 fields that develop 19 criteria. And unlike other international recognized environment certification systems such as LEED or BREEAM or Verde, this protocol is not a scoring system. Instead, it defines 19 mandatory criteria that are grouped in these 6 fields, okay? These 6 fields are transversal analysis and follow-up. This means we have to think of things from the beginning, and we'll see it later. Energy, materials, water, comfort and health, and sustainability of the site. That is the one we're going to talk today, because it's the one that faces all these problems dealing green infrastructure in our territory. Each one of these criteria is assessed both qualitatively and quantitatively, so aiming to a realistic yet ambitious level of sustainability. And the protocol is not just a guideline, it's a dynamic and evolving tool that allows us to make more informed decisions and embed sustainability from the very beginning of the projects, okay? So we're going to talk about this site sustainability of the site. Well, first, of course, green infrastructure plays a crucial role in delivering ecosystem services, such as improving air quality, managing water and temperature, and supporting biodiversity. This includes not only large natural areas, but also urban parks, tree-lined streets, and even green roofs and facades. Second, soil sealing and land occupation have disrupted the natural water cycle, making cities more vulnerable to droughts and heavy rainfalls, especially in the Mediterranean context. Improving This means that we have to improve the drainage and water management in our cities. And third, the urban heat island effect is reducing comfort and increasing energy demand in cities. So urban greenery can help mitigate these impacts through natural shade and temperature regulations. Finally, of course, mobility has also to do with this. It's not the matter for today, so I will not talk about it. And let's go more deeply in every one of these matters. The first one, it's increasing green infrastructure. What we have to do to accomplish with our protocol. The first thing is make an identification of pre-existing elements, of natural elements in the area we're going to work. Okay, that means we have to survey and map existing vegetation, including tree data, and then check for protected animal species, and if present, we have to obtain the required permits and apply protection measures for them, okay? The second thing is that we have to require a minimum percentage of green space area every time we're working on that. So for each area and sub-area defined within the project, we must identify on the plan and count individually all the green areas corresponding to different layers of vegetation of the green spaces and the greenery pertaining to the buildings. And I will show you what this means. I mean, we have this project of the street, and when we're talking about layers, we're talking about not only the canopy, but also the green infrastructure in the floor, in the ground, like bushes and things like that, okay? And we count everything there. And we are requiring a minimum of all this depending on the type of project we're working on, okay? So on the left hand of this graphic, you have, which is the cover, the zenithal green cover, the canopy that it's obliged to have the space where we're working, and on the right hand you have the sum of all this amount of green spaces, different layers, how it has to be. So we have in parks, for instance, you have to have at least 75% of the surface covered by a canopy, but in the end you have to have 110% of the surface covered by green. This means it's more than 100 because you are summing, okay, the green infrastructure you have on the ground with the green infrastructure you have on the trees, okay, and the same for squares, streets, and buildings. And this is obliged. So you have to begin thinking on the project with this, because you cannot count the trees or the surfaces you are using after you finish, because probably you want to be able to accomplish with the protocol. Okay, that's something that's very important that we have to use since the very beginning of the projects. Second thing is contribution to biodiversity. So the first thing we have to do is identify whether there are any species of special interest or degree on threat in the area. If that's the thing, we have to take the appropriate actions to maintain that and to preserve that biodiversity existing there. But not only that, we have to be able to increase the biodiversity of the place. And for that, we have a list of actions that can be shown. Actions that are things like many different kind of types, like encourage tree species diversity is fundamental, the diversity of species for biodiversity, or encourage shrub and ground cover species diversity as well, okay? Generate diverse vegetation strata, avoid planting tree species that represent more than 10% of the municipality tree inventory in the same way, plant flowering trees in tree pits and show grasses, prioritizing plant species that bear fruit during the bird migration season, on the attractive to pollinating insects, etc., etc. This up to 13, and depending on the kind of project we are doing, we have to choose from 3 to 7 of these actions to improve biodiversity of the site. Water is the next thing we are worried about. Water management, rainwater management in public space. We have to study the water flows. We have to know which is the capacity for rainwater management, and we have to understand or know which is the water quality we're going to bring back to the soil. So the thing is that we are now we've made these impermeable waterproof cities in where water goes to the ground, and then it goes to the sewing system, and from the sewing system to the sea. So we are not bringing water down to aquifers. We are taking water out from the aquifers. We are emptying them, but we are not refilling them. So we're having problems with that because they can get salinized or contaminated because of the less of water. And so the thing is that we have to try to bring as much water as possible back to our aquifer system. For that, there is a minimum volume of surface runoff to manage in every project. And this is the for that, to help reduce the heat island effect as well. Well, that's the thing. So this is the amount of water that we have to bring back in millimeters to the subsoil in all projects we're doing. This means streets, squares, and parks 50 millimeters, and urbanization areas 10 millimeters. This is the 80% of the rainfall. Okay, so we have to get this 80%. That means this 15 or 10 millimeters. Okay, and the other thing, the problem we have is this heat island effect in urban areas. We've built these impermeable cities, as I said before, but also with a very high thermal inertia. That means that, well, also, as you know, surfaces get this heat, and then they bring it back to the air when the temperature in the air is decreasing, and this is creating this high heat island effect that we have to deal in some way. So for public space, to help reduce the heat island effect in the city, the percent of a paved surface that retains the most heat, the impermeable pavement exposed to sun in summer, is limited with respect to the total area of action. So we limit how many square meters of impermeable surfaces that are able to retain heat are exposed to the sun. And in buildings, we limit the percentage of envelope surface area that retains heat as well. Okay. Buildings are mainly the biggest problem in this sense, because we can treat pavements and so on, but in the end, buildings are there. It would be very long to change them. So at this moment, they are retaining lots of heat that is going back to, because they are made of stones or things that have a very big thermal inertia. So this is the problem. So we have to work as well in buildings, not only in the streets, okay, on public space. So this is the reduction of the surfaces that have to be at the maximum surfaces that have to be shown. I don't know if you see it properly, because I see that something moving here, and do you see? I think you don't see the numbers properly here.
Yeah, for the last one, for streets, we don't see it.
Okay, I will tell them to you anyway. It's
There is the scale, though. We can see the scale below.
Yeah, well, you see the scale. Okay. So the thing is that in parks we can only have 20% of surfaces that retain heat exposed to sun. In squares, it's 40%, and in streets, it's 65%. And in facades and rooftops, it's 40%. With that, we try to diminish the surface that is retaining heat, so that it's less, after that, it's less surface bringing heat back to the air, okay? I'm not going to talk about mobility, because the thing, these are the tools we have to fight against these climate change effects. This is the part with, say, mitigation of climate change. And through green infrastructure, management of water, and trying to reduce this heat island effect, we try to make our environment more comfortable for all of us. And now I'm going to show some projects in which we've put this in practice to see what does this mean in reality, okay? This is, again, our metropolitan area. I'm going to show three projects, 3 urban projects, and then another project that's of another kind, in which we've tested all these we're talking about. The first one is the Cornellà Natura. Cornellà Natura is a urban strategy to link, through green infrastructure, important points of the city, bringing, you have the river down here, okay, this is the river Llobregat, and then is how from the river we are able to bring green infrastructure through the city around. And this is a plan that we've been doing several works. I'll show you some of them. This is how it was, the Alps Avenue before. It's one of these parts, and how it's now. I'll show you several pictures on that project. Okay, that's what we get through applying our protocol in the space. You're obliged to do things that way, and that's the result we obtain. Of course, this will be much better in some years, because the problem is you have to plant small trees that they have to grow, but we are doing our work. The second one I want to show you is the Green Comb in Santa Coloma de Gramenet. This is the Besòs River, the other river that crosses our territory. And the idea is called a comb because it's like, a comb that's going through the streets and trying to bring green infrastructure from the river to the Serralada de Marina, this is the mountain that's beside. Okay, and this is a project with the same aim that the one you saw before, that uses the river as the beginning of all this infrastructure that's going through the streets along the city. And I will show you also some pictures of that. This is what we had. This is what we have. This is what we had. This is what we have. And this is a like bird view of the thing in summer. The last project we're working on it's not still done, but we're working. This one in Sant Andreu de la Barca. It's a project that tries to bring green infrastructure from the river to the mountain and make like an ecological corridor through the city. And this is the idea is this one, okay? And this is the project how it's now. It's still in our desks. We are beginning it now. So, but it's one more of these exercises we're doing to bring more green infrastructure and enhance biodiversity in the cities of the metropolitan area. And in the end, to finish, I want to show you 2 slides of a project we're working on that it's called TopSec. This is a project, is an innovation project that aims to address urban challenges related to climate change and waste generation, proposing the installation of self-sustainable green roof that do not require irrigation, and that's the thing. Additionally, the project will investigate techniques for water retention and the selection of suitable plants using an innovative substrate made by biochar produced from local organic waste. That's the thing that we haven't been talking about till now. It's waste. It's another problem we have in our cities. And here we are trying to solve 3 things through this TopSec project. It's a project that's found by European urban initiatives, and co-funded by the European Union, of course, and it's trying to attack again the heat island effect, to work for a better biodiversity, and this using organic waste. Okay, and the idea is that we want to create this new kind of rooftops made by vegetal matter, but not necessarily irrigated. See, we are between this gravity rooftop we have all around the city and this more costable or expensive in terms of water roofs we have, or we know, and we are trying to investigate how we can get another kind of roofs where vegetation is present, but without the need of water. And well, working this way, we will try to bring our metropolitan area to a greener stage. And I hope during the following years, we will be able to reach this 75% of green infrastructure in our territory that I was talking about before at the beginning. Thank you very much. I'm open to questions. I hope it has been interesting enough for you, and anything you need, I'm here.
Thank you, Albert. It was indeed a very interesting presentation, and it's great to hear about your sustainability protocol. Congratulations on the work, and I also hope you get to this 75%, which is an ambitious target you've set. I'll start with some questions of my own, even though I knew your projects already, but hearing you presenting them, some questions naturally arise. So from what I understand, you're already thinking of specific ecosystem services you want to deliver. You want, of course, to increase biodiversity, the abundance of specific native species, but you're particularly targeting heat mitigation and, well, temperature regulation, if I can put it like this, and water regulation through infiltration mostly, and reduction, so better water management, reducing the amount of water you need for irrigation. So that's quite an interesting combination. You have the nature restoration regulation, which tells you you have to green, you have to have more trees, but you're contextualizing it to the local challenges you have in in Barcelona. So I found that particularly interesting. What I also particularly liked is looking at the picture of the green axis, that you see a very urbanized area. You see a river here. You see a mountain there. It's incomprehensible, like to somebody who I've been working in this field and think, okay, now we're going to connect this with a green corridor. That's quite ambitious and impressive, even if it's still only on paper. Can you a bit elaborate maybe on the process to get this actually done in the next few years?
Yes, well, this is a project it's a project of this city, we are doing in the city, San Andreu de la Barca. Of course, it has to be done by phases. I mean, the project, the municipality is with our investment plan, it's not able to afford the whole intervention in one time. So it's a thing that it will be done in the following maybe 10 years, okay, or something like that, probably. But you said several things that I think it's interesting to comment. We're talking about the territory and how we bring this to our territory. And I put it on the desk, what I'm going to say, because I have my doubts about how we'll be able to maintain or increase this green infrastructure in our cities when one of the problems we have in our metropolitan area is that we have to change most of the vegetation to make it more sustainable. What I want to say, we have full of trees that are drinking lots of water, that are trees that probably are not from our climate or our environment, and that are difficulting the way we want to manage all these around sustainability. I don't know if I'm explaining quite well.
Correct. Yeah.
What I mean is that we have to take these trees off, okay, and put new trees. But we put new trees that are very small compared with these ones we are taking out, okay. So if we look the canopy through a satellite, we'll be losing green infrastructure instead of winning it. But the other hand, we are constructing the green infrastructure we need for a good development, sustainable development of our country, of our territory. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, it's very clear. So
that's something that I think someone has to think about that, okay?
Yeah. So you need to make choices. It cannot always be synergetic. You won't be canopy. Big canopy trees might be more water demanding in some cases. I understand this. So you need to make co-optimize between these two specific targets. It is very clear.
It's not so about the large or the canopy itself. It's about the species we're using. You can get the canopy with other species, okay? The problem is they have to substitute one species by others. And the problem is that we're taking off a big tree to put a small tree that will be big in 10 years. Okay,
it's a time component.
That's the thing. Okay,
that's another component. Yes, time.
The other thing,
we have a question in the chat
okay.
Here. So the question is, you have been applying some limits to the level of paved surfaces, silt soils. However, how is this level, this percentage decided? And it requires, we assume, collaboration among different departments. There is infrastructure running underground. How do you're not the only organization, working on that territory, or, there are multiple departments even within AMB.
No, and even being IMB, we have to deal with the municipalities because in the end they are going to keep this public space or whatever, and they have to maintain it. It's not us who is going to do that. So it's something we have to negotiate with them, of course. And of course, there are exceptions. There are places where we cannot infiltrate water, and that's that, and we don't do there. Okay, it's something that it's an idea that we always plan it, and then we see if it's possible. Of course, we cannot think about do infiltration of water on the same ground in small city centers, of course. But we have to think what we are going to do with that water. Okay. Of course, we cannot bring all the water because if you have parking areas or things like that, that the water could be polluted or whatever, and then you don't want it to be back to the aquifer. So, okay, and then that's the thing. And but there are different things. One thing is the surface that is exposed to sun. That's easy. In the end, it's not it's not compromising anything else. It's you decide how many trees are you going to put there or shadows or whatever, and that's not affecting anything but the place and the other thing is what I was saying before, services or things like that are going down. Of course, to make a good draining system, you have to have an important subsoil substrate where this water is managed, and you need this space to do that, and of course you have to be able to manage that. If you have that full of thousands of services crossing there, maybe it's not possible. And of course, there is always an incompatibility between services and tree plants and things like that. But we study all that at the very beginning of the project. The first thing we do is to analyze where the services are going through. I mean, underground services, okay? Where they're going through, and this is always a condition we have to face at the moment of the project.
Understood. I have another two questions. How do you you identify the ecosystem services you want to support? Heat mitigation is an important one. How do you collaborate? How do you integrate citizens in this process? If you do, how do they participate in the design of space?
Well, usually we do it through the municipalities. Okay. The thing is that I haven't explained it, but maybe it's a moment to say it because the people can understand what we do. We are a kind of technical office that make projects and works for the municipalities through an investment plan we have. Okay. This investment plan is an amount of money that is distributed among the 35 municipalities. Barcelona is not there. Okay. And we accord with them which are the projects we're going to develop. Okay, that's the first thing. So when we've decided we're going to make this street or this square or this park or whatever, or this building, okay, we make our first drafts of that. Or sometimes there is before, if the municipality wants, a popular participation, and there are interviews, questions, things like that, where people says what they need or what do they wait of that space, whatever, and then that's the beginning of the work, and then we go back to them and explain which are the solutions we are proposing, and the problem only is parking.
That's clear.
The only problem we have is where I'm going to park my car when you finish the project. Yes. That's the only problem we have. Nobody puts any kind of thing against trees or water or whatever,
Yeah. No, and I think that's not unique to Barcelona. That's a global problem. Where are you going to park your car? one more question from me, and then a question from the chat, which is also interesting. You mentioned briefly, and I want to elaborate a little bit on that, how you finance your protocol. Your protocol has standards, so that's one part of the protocol, how you do stuff, but it also has targets. So it means that by a set date, you need to have achieved certain outcomes. So how do you finance this? You mentioned the 35 municipalities, except Barcelona. Are there other instruments you try to exploit?
Yeah, of course. We are trying to get as much as European funds as we can. We participate in several projects dealing with that. You know, one of them, TopSec. Of course, that's our only. Well, we have a part of our people working on research. Okay, but we cannot face big projects if we don't get funds from somewhere. Okay, we dedicate some of our funds to do this of mainly our people. I mean, it's not something that has to be with money sometimes, but with capacity. We have to not to do all the things, to do the things we have to work about. Things like protocol have been need a lot of work of our people because it's something that is always alive. I mean, it's not we have stopped. We are now thinking on make a new version more linked with European levels, taxonomy, things like that. Okay, so that we integrate it more in the European context, and well, of course, but in fact, in the end, it's a matter of our own resources. I mean, people and so on. Okay,
that's clear. Yeah. And to keep it to 1 hour, I'll take a question from the audience here, which is an interesting one. Sabina is asking, when you develop the protocol, there might be areas with different priorities, different sustainability measures that could implement. For instance, the installation of photovoltaic panels on roofs or facades, which might not allow you to drop temperatures. It might actually do the opposite, increase temperatures. How do you negotiate between other needs, like, so for instance, renewable energy production?
Well, there is a part. The first part of the protocol is energy. So the second one, we integrate everything. Okay, we integrate everything here. But we are also working on biosolar rooftops, okay, where you combine solar panels with green infrastructure, okay, and facades are more complicated, of course, okay, but in rooftops, in the end, solar panels are also giving shadow to the roof, so they are working on the way that in the end the building is getting benefited not only because of the energy that it's providing, but also with the shadow that's providing. No, well, the protocol you can find it, but we have it in English, but it's not still published. If people understand Spanish, you can download it from our website. Okay, and I think we have the English version now being corrected. So I hope in 1 month, something like that, it will be available for everybody. Something that is free, you can use it. Not only the protocol, but also the tools we use, because we have tools to calculate all this. I've been talking about. It's not, we have some diagrams where you can enter the data, and then you get the results you need, and so on. So there are some tools as well that complement the protocol itself, and that is like our law or our rules, in fact.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, Albert. This was super informative and very useful to put in the context of the nature restoration regulation and see how Barcelona, a major city in Europe and a front runner in ecology, environment, is approaching this. I'd like to thank you for your great presentation again. And I would like to ask maybe Harris in the background if we can have the presentation back on, so we can invite the audience for the next session we will be having. So Heather, perhaps you would like to introduce this?
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Leon. And thank you so very much, Albert, for your fantastic presentation and information there. Our next two, and then there's a final webinars are detailed here. So please save the date then for our next one taking place on the 28th of May. That is 10 till 12 CEST. So here we're focusing on working with citizens and business. So looking at that privately owned land that we discussed earlier on at the beginning of the webinar. We have confirmed a speaker coming from Rotterdam to share about a really interesting project that's just being kicked off now called Greening Without Borders. So this is really kind of providing skills to citizens to help them green their own private gardens, but also involving business. It's a really fantastic new innovative project taking place in Rotterdam. We'll be announcing the other confirmed speakers very soon. The final webinar then in this series, we'll be looking at those national restoration plans. This is set for Thursday, the 12th of June. We've got confirmation speakers from the European Environment Agency, so they will present on this standardized format of what that national restoration plan is. We then have also Axel Griffin coming from CMR, so the Council of European Municipalities and Regions. She's going to present a little bit on a short survey that was taken to understand how cities are working with their national governments already, if they are. And then we also have a case study example actually coming from Finland then for how the National Ministry for Environment in Finland has set up a working group with the 6 major Finnish cities to work together on implementing this national restoration plan, the law, and then working towards completing the plan as well. So the registration is already open and you can find that there. But otherwise, I'll just say thank you very much and I'll hand back to Leon.
Thank you, Heather. And once again, thanks, Albert, and thanks also to the audience for staying here and attending our webinar. I hope this was informative. And yeah, again, let me also say that we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar on the 28th or on the 12th of June. Thanks again. Goodbye, everyone.